All right, so they all on free break. Yeah.
We used to do it downstairs in the conference room, and after um, a lot of people started coming, it became
So these work sessions are open to the public? Oh, okay. Gotcha.
yeah, any meeting where there is more than four of us, it is open to the public. It
Okay.
has to be open to the public.
Okay.
Now, only things that are not open to the public is if we go into executive session. And so when we go into executive session, there has to be, you probably saw it on our other, well, it should be here because now we do
Man, what's up?
We
All
got-
right.
we can
Good to see you, boss.
get started.
Yeah, man.
Somewhat's on time.
No. What you got?
This one is going to be pretty much you're going to be able to pinch and zoom on this one. Your presentation is not going to show up on here. You just have to follow along with the slide numbers. But you'll be able to pinch and zoom on here. If you want to take notes, you can take notes in this box right here.
Okay, so I'm gonna get
I'm
out of
missing
here.
Erica though. Oh, there she is.
Back on that side.
Okay. When I get, what is this?
It's one of the presentation.
This is work session. Eh? I want to go into open session. Yeah.
We can go close here, and then we'll go to the regular city council.
Okay.
And then
Go to agenda. Okay, so when we get here, item 8.
Ain't gonna get it.
Kids need it. Kids need it. Kids need it.
Okay.
And honestly, I pulled some people. I mean, I actually pulled some people and pull over. Yeah, I mean, they were saying the same thing. Sometimes they have things that
The profit center.
Hey, how are you, Teresa? Eric. Eric. Next thing we need is Wi-Fi in here. I know, it is so slow. It is like you are on. You got the secret code. Only thing I need is the board agenda, right? It says 3:30.
Yeah, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Those are kinds of things that we have to make changes to when they change meeting times. You good?
I'm good.
Where'd he go?
Oh, I forgot to clean that thing out.
Miss Lady,
Who was that? Hey, how are you?
how you?
Good.
Good.
Good to see you. I don't know him. Yeah, I don't know him. Who's that? Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna get some water.
Who do you think that was?
The cat got it.
I don't know who that was.
It's not good, Connie. Connie.
There we go. Sherry, can you hear me now?
All right, let's go.
No, can't hear you.
All right. Miss Jeff, Erica, you ready to rock and roll? Hello, Ms. Wiley. I like the hair. I like the hair.
Thank you.
Go ahead, man. I'm trying to hit the gavel, but I'm trying not to do it while you're sitting back here. Wiley. Wiley.
Oh, Lord.
I can tell this is going to be a fun day.
Yes.
A fun day. Now, we get to start a little bit late. We're going to work our way through this work session. Is that me or someone else? Okay. We're going to work our way through this work session. Let's get it all done. We got executive session, and then we're going to work our way through our evening pretty quickly, y'all. I will tell you, tomorrow's the first day of school for my children. I have every intention of putting them to bed tonight. So if I attempt to limit debate, I'll charge it to my head and also to my heart. We're not going to be here all night long. All right? So let's see what we can do together. Thank y'all for being here. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Good afternoon. Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mr. Duval? Mr. Badura? Ms. Plow? Mr. Vine?
Here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mayor Benjamin?
Here.
Thank you.
Reverend McDowell, you mind leading us in a word of prayer?
Let us pray. Oh, Lord, for this day and for all the promises you've allowed us. Lord, we bless now that as we come to this place of decision, this place of conversation, we ask that thou would sensitize each of us, particularly to your will and to your way, not ours, but yours. Bless this city of ours and those of us who stand in the gap. We ask it in your name.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Did someone dim the lights while we were praying? Okay, I didn't know if that happened or if I just felt that. Okay. All right, so let's we got a pretty aggressive agenda, but pretty exciting agenda too, I might add. So let's start working our way through it. Mr. Palin.
Mayor, members of council, our first item for city council discussion is on the Finley Park Master Plan. That will be presented by Mr. Randy Davis, our Director for Parks and Recreation.
Welcome, Randy. Let's get you in that microphone. Let's make sure you got the microphone on and get speaking into it so folks can hear you.
Okay, good afternoon, City Council, Mayor. We're here to share with you an update on the master plan for Finley Park. We have the design team here to present to you and share with you the strategies to moving forward with your direction. I want to bring up Mark Johnson with Civitas and Jenny Horn from Stantec.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having us today. I'm Jenny Horn with Stantec, and with me today I have Mark Johnson with Civitas. He is our park planner extraordinaire, and what he's going to do in the next couple of minutes is just run through the history of Finley Park and what our master planning efforts were, and give you an outline of what our next steps will be.
Thank you, and good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. As you recall, we were here about 18 months ago with a presentation. I'm going to refresh your memories with that presentation and talk about what we think some next steps might be. So we have a team that involves a number of people. Many of these firms and people are from and live in Columbia. You'll recall that Columbia Park was once called the crown jewel of the city. It's been here, Finley Park rather, I'm sorry. It's been here since the origin of the city, and it sits here. You can see it at the head of that little creek. And as you know, there's a pond in Finley Park, and that's there because the creek flowed under that pond, and that essentially was dammed up, and the creek was piped to make that pond. This is a very, very important photograph. You're looking towards the corner of Laurel Street and Assembly Street. Are these on your screens? On your iPads, are you able to see this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. And what you can see here is that the land that is now Finley Park was cut down and lowered for industry.
Mark, one thing though, when you go through, tell us when to advance, because we don't necessarily know when you're advancing to the
Yours
next
is not
one.
advancing when mine is.
Right.
I see, thank you. Push it. No, I wasn't intentionally trying to confuse everybody. So in this old photograph, what you see is that the land was cut down very steeply from Laurel Street and Assembly Street. And when the park was made, it was filled back up again. And you might recall one of the issues in the park is that the soil continues to settle. That's because this fill was probably not done to modern standards. So we identified in our prior analysis 7 issues with the park: deterioration, safety, personal security, maintenance challenges, accessibility, event management, and activation of the park on a daily basis. So I'm going to click forward. It says slide number 1, and there's a photograph of a wall. Deterioration. The original construction was not up to standards that we would apply today. If you notice in this photograph, you can see that that stone wall has no foundation under it. So what's happened over time is that the soil is eroding away and these walls are collapsing. The second thing, there are numerous code issues which pose actual safety issues. If you look on the upper left, in this slide says number 2, safety. You will see that you can walk right off of the walkway and step right off that wall, which is several feet high. That would not meet today's codes. Going to slide number 3, personal security. This is a picture just below the Jazz Cafe. What you can see here, there are quite a few hidden spaces. And one of the issues in the park is that as you move around, you will find people in these spaces, not always doing things that make you feel comfortable. Then to number 4, maintenance challenges, the next slide. You can see here the water is green. As you all know, there's been a lot of algae challenges with the fountain and the spiral and pond for many years, and in fact, the spiral fountain has been turned off for 10 or 11 months now because of those issues. And in many ways, it's just old enough that it needs replacement. The next slide, number 5, accessibility. The steep slopes coming down from Laurel and Assembly are not only inaccessible under ADA standards, they create a problem where you can't see what's coming up ahead of you. So you come down the steps onto a lower terrace, and I myself have been startled by people who are doing something there that's inappropriate or something that makes me feel insecure. And so that lack of visibility is a significant issue and deterrent to people entering the park. The next slide, number 6, titled Event Management. As you know, there have been a number of issues over the years with concerts projecting sound up into the neighborhoods, and that's something we feel should be addressed. And the last in this series, number 7, says daily activation and disconnected spaces. The many, many walls and terraces and railings and stairs make it difficult for there to be any flow within this park. If you think about yourself going to think of your favorite park, you flow from one space to another. The kids can run off, you have whatever you're doing, it flow. This park has very little of that on, and of course it does. It's something that makes, again, a deterrent to more usage. So then the next slide is simply an aerial photograph for orientation. In the center at the top, you can see the white spiral of the spiral fountain. And then below that, you can where the waterfall is, if you look carefully, down into the pond. On the left, that circular area we call the drum is where there are a couple picnic tables today. In Robert Marvin's original design, he had intended that to be a restaurant building. He had hoped there would be a circular building in that location. So then, looking to the next slide, which is an artist rendering, you can see a number of things that we propose to change, and I'll start going through these in some detail.
Mark, before you do that, Mark,
Please.
the 7 bullet points you mentioned, it seems like so many of the challenges that the park faces go back to the original design and construction of the park. Is that
Yes.
fair? Is that fair to say?
I think it's fair.
Okay, so it's not just a maintenance issue.
No.
Okay.
No, the park is very well maintained. This is, the park is deteriorating at a rate which maintenance can't keep up with it. I think any reasonable maintenance program would have a real challenge keeping.
That's an important point to note, though, that while the park was aesthetically pleasing, that there were a number of design challenges at the very inception of the park.
Design and construction challenges.
Construction challenges. Okay.
Absolutely right. Thank you. The building walls of this scale without foundations is not something we would ever recommend today, and having the kind of drop-offs and really challenging set of stairs going up and down the hill is not something we would look to design today, because we're more, I guess I should say, more sensitive to just accessibility and mobility for everyone than during this design.
All right, thank you.
So in this artist rendering, what you'll see, first let's start with the pond. You'll notice that we're recommending the addition of an additional pedestrian bridge across the pond. The pond is quite lovely, but it's also quite large, and it means that the pond, it visually unifies the park, but physically it separates the park, because you're on one side of the pond or the other, and you have to go a long way around. We believe that movement, or this idea of flow, the ability to connect things to one thing to another, is what gives their life to a park and distributes people through a park, enhances activity and a sense of security and the social qualities of a park. You'll note that the circular building is where the large retaining walls are today. I'll go into this in some more detail. It's a 3-level building that would have concessions and bathrooms on the ground floor, event space on the second floor, and an open-air event deck on top. As you all know, this is a signature view of the city and out into the landscape. And very importantly, this building has an elevator that can get you from the upper level down to the bottom of the fountain, a primary issue for accessibility. It also would house the new equipment to run the spiral fountain and to cleanse and pump the pond water, et cetera. So today, as you might recall, the equipment is in a vault underground. We would pull that up and put that into a building so you can simply open a door and maintain that equipment, and I'm quite sure that equipment would be much more easily and probably better maintained if it were accessible in that way. So let's go through some of the parts. Here is a plan. The building I was just referring to is called multi-use building. You see the pond, the waterfalls, what we're referring to as a destination playground, a significant playground built into the side of the hill, so that instead of seeing the hillside as a barrier, it becomes a place for kids to play. And we all know kids love to play on hills. A very important thing you'll note, if you look to the right of the pond, you'll see the label Band Pavilion. That is a pavilion where we would move the concerts so that the sound would be projected upwards towards Laurel and Assembly Street, away from the neighborhoods and toward downtown. And that large lawn area then is a lawn amphitheater space for people to sit during those concerts. You'll notice that where it's labeled the terraces, there's a significant refinement to that area to make everything more visible and accessible. On the bottom of the slide, you'll see something noted as Gateway Feature and Entry Plaza. That is an idea to bring public bathrooms to Taylor Street, right where you enter the park, as well as a structure to house maintenance equipment for the park and a reconfiguration of the entry plaza. There is a very old bathroom building there today, which is kind of back and around the corner, a little out of the way, and creates, to my eye, a bit of a security concern. So these are the basic parts. Please stop me if you have questions. These red lines indicate all of the pathways which would become ADA accessible. And what that means is that their slopes, their gradients would be no more than 5%. If you look carefully, you'll see two small areas where they're gray, and those are the two small areas where we would need to have those greater than 5%, up to 12%, which is the maximum allowed under ADA. And one of those paths is just to the left of the multi-use building, and the other is just to the left of where you see the term the terraces. That's just dealing with some extra steep slopes. But I think you can see all of these red lines connect together at accessible slopes. You can get a sense. In fact, there's one missing. The bridge on the pond is also accessible. That should be a red line also. You can see the amount of circulation that this plan opens up. I'm going to go to the next slide, which says, on the bottom it says the waterfalls and cascade. So there's a close-up in the upper left of what the waterfall area is. This is restoration of the spiral fountain, and then reconstruction of the cascading waterfalls and walkway next to it to make them safer and more stable. We would be retaining the waterfall that comes off the plank and drops down into the grotto space. I think that's a very important feature of the park. And here you can see the addition of the bridge between the multi-use building and the playground, and then across the pond in the upper left. Going forward a slide, let's talk about the building a little bit. This slide is the one that shows 3 circular building plans on the top, and the renderings below I will show you in larger scale in upcoming slides. On the right of the 3 plans is the first floor plan, and there you have an elevator, which is that little square right on the top of the plan. You have storage, public bathrooms, and concession space on that level. The middle plan is the second floor, where again you have bathrooms, elevator, plus there's a service elevator here also to assist with catering. And that is an enclosed event space. And on the left is the rooftop plan, which also has bathrooms which are publicly accessible to the park. Now, one comment on this, and let me go forward. We believe that this building can and probably should be made smaller. We think we should take a hard look at this, make sure, working with the Parks Department, that the program is right, that the building size is right, that it will function effectively, but we feel that it's rather large, both in terms of the actual square footage and just the scale of it. It's a big building.
How large is it now?
Jenny, was it 28,000 total? Yes, a total of 28,000 feet, including the rooftop. So it's something like
About 9,000 per floor?
9,000 a floor or something like that. And so that's pretty big.
Mr. Duval?
Mark, I've had several phone calls. I had more than several about the whole Finley Park renovation, but I've had several that focused on this building. Is that something that could be put into a phase and be done at a later point? I noticed you said it had some of the pumps for the waterfall in it, and it has bathrooms, two things that we will need. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Thank you. Absolutely. There are, let me think just for a moment, at least 4 elements of the building which really need to be there. It doesn't mean it has to be this building, but there are 4 things. We have to replace the big wall that's there because it keeps falling apart. The idea of this building is, as you know, today that wall comes outward into the park. The wall here goes backward into the park, so the building sits in front of that wall. So we would need to structure the soil to hold up that hillside somehow. So there's a cost that we cannot avoid. The second is we think it's prudent to make some level of a building immediately to put the pumps and filter systems in so we can get over this problem of having everything in a vault. The third is to have public bathrooms above and below, so that we just think that's very important to keeping the park clean and safe and comfortable. But the fourth is the elevator itself to give us, we've got, I forget the exact number of feet, but it's 3 floors of vertical height that we have to accommodate, and there isn't any reasonable way to have a ramp system to make a connection that long. In fact, that ramp has to go almost all the way over to Assembly Street before it comes back down. Hence our idea of having an elevator there. So we think that there needs to be some set of structures there. It doesn't have to be this building, it doesn't have to be this big, it would not have to. You could certainly phase this building into that, but we haven't studied that yet.
Thank you.
Maybe one last point on that, if I could. So if you were to look at the cost estimate and ask yourself how much money might be saved, if you see a number for the building, you probably can't really remove that entire number, because we still have to do
Those four elements are
those four elements have to be
costly.
paid for somehow.
And just for clarity's sake, you're saying that those 3 stories of fill have to come out one way or the other. That's what we're talking about, right?
Well, we have to build a wall to, if we don't take it out, we have to build a wall to retain it somehow.
All right.
Now, it could be terraced back, have to look the way that it does today.
Mark, just a couple other questions about the building, and I understand the cost, so that would be adjusted. It's not completely just taking that out, but as far as, I guess, the height, and is there any obstruction to the view of the park from the home, for the homeowners?
I don't think so. I don't think that the building creates an obstruction, although now that you raise it, we could model that. This computer model, we can take views from any direction, so we could study that and come back with very specific answers for you.
And then if it looked as if maybe functionally we didn't necessarily want to do the building where it gets rented out in space, but you still needed to add in those other items, bathrooms and things, what would you think that the building would be? Would it still need to be 3 floors, or where?
I think, in other words, if I'm hearing you correctly, if we were to defer the building itself, the event building, but to keep the 4 elements that I mentioned, my immediate reaction would be we would probably restructure the round wall that's there, things into that earth, so that the pump vaults, the elevator, the bathrooms would be on top. They would need to have some kind of building for the bathrooms and the top of the elevator, but it would be quite small, I would think. And at the bottom, they could potentially be dug into that hillside.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you can see here also just our rough ideas about.
All right,
Let me just ask, let me just follow up on a question that Ms. Devine just raised. And that is that's the whole nature of obstruction, and how that's going to visually be the concept of it all, how that's going to visually look for persons who live around the park. So it's going to be interesting for us, I think, for us to, when we get to that point, to look at how that's going to aesthetically look on the ground and how it's going to be viewed from those residents who are around the park.
I appreciate that. We can, if we proceed and study those issues, we can certainly show you exactly what those views would look like in different configurations of the building. And I think it would be important to do so people literally have their eyes open and know what's coming.
But what's planned, of course, is ideal, but we don't want it to be an obstruction to those persons who have invested, of course, on those particular spots where they live.
Yes.
So if we could get that, whenever that comes, it's certainly going to be interesting to see how that pans itself out.
Thank you.
you.
So you'll note here on the lower left, you can see the bridge leading from the multipurpose building to the playground. The playground is at the bottom of the screen on the right, and the bridge that goes off to the left is across the middle of the pond, and then the reconstructed cascades. Moving to the next slide, this is an artist rendering of what that upper floor might look like, and here it's shown as an open air but covered space so that you could hold an event, a wedding, or something like that, regardless of weather. And regarding the last 2 questions, if you had this is the piece of the structure you would see, because this, the surface that these people are standing on in this image is close to where the lawn surface is today. So this structure overhead that you're seeing is above that. So if there's obstruction, it's because of this structure. Then this is a rendering from that second level, the enclosed space looking out over the park as some kind of an event. And then the next slide, on the bottom it says the terraces. Next time I'm here, I'll put big numbers on the slides to make this easier for all of us. What you're seeing in the upper left is just an enlargement of where we would remove the semicircular terraces that create that view blockage and have a continuous flowing stairway that, as you can see here, is intercepted by these various ramps with the event lawn, a pair of event lawns actually, and that band pavilion at the bottom and the playground on the left. Now let's look at those things. So the next slide does not have a label on it, but you're looking down the hill, down that proposed stairway. In the foreground, or sort of the middle of the slide, you can see the pond with the band pavilion in front of it, and behind that, that larger building that we've been discussing. You can see how this space flows together. There's another point that I'd like to make while we're looking at this. One of the issues in the park, this actually sounds a little funny, there are too many trees in the park. It sounds a little funny to say that, but in fact, there are so many trees in this park, especially the crepe myrtles on the hillside, that people hide in there, and that's become an issue. So we think we need to make sure we keep this park visually open as well as flowing in terms of circulation. This next slide is a close-up of the band pavilion. You can see it's designed to be similar to the round building. And it has the pond behind, so the band would be here projecting out of the picture towards Laurel and Assembly as opposed to the residences. We think this is a fairly important move to make, to move this event over to avoid those impacts. Then the next slide, which says Destination Playground on the bottom. On the upper left, you'll see a plan of the playground, but I will quickly acknowledge it's difficult to understand the playground here. So I'm going to go one more slide, which is a bird's eye look at what this playground might be. And you can see it's trying to use the hillside to generate movement for kids, which of course, that kind of running up and down the hill is really, really healthy for kids. And in the back, the very top of the picture, you'll see little red umbrellas and windows. And what we're proposing to do is to remove the top level of the Jazz Cafe and to renovate this. You're looking at a renovated version of the lower level of the Jazz Cafe. Today, you have pump equipment and pump controls and bathrooms in that space. We would remove those pump controls to expand the bathrooms and use the rest of the space perhaps for another concession so that there are bathrooms and food and drinks available right next to the playground. We believe a playground, this is a large playground with a lot of equipment, and this would attract people from beyond the city and from the suburbs on the weekends, we think, because exciting playgrounds have become a great destination today. And this is a very important element because bringing families into the park is probably the best way to make this park happier, more social, and safer. So moving to the next slide, you're now looking at eye-level artist rendering with the playground in the back, the lake in the foreground, and the band pavilion on the right. So and this is taken from that new bridge over the pond. So you can see how tightly connected everything is together. Then to the next slide, it says the pond on the bottom. And there are really three things that we think need to happen with the pond. One is we have to repair the bottom. The pond does leak, and the Parks Department is refilling it with water very frequently to keep the water levels up. So those leaks have to be fixed, probably have some kind of different structure to form the bottom of the pond to permanently eliminate the leaks. We do know that the way it was constructed was constructed with less of a membrane than was intended in the original design. And so it's no surprise. It's lined with bentonite clay, and I forget the exact numbers, but it's much less clay than the designers had intended.
Some value engineering?
Valueless engineering, perhaps. Or we'll call that devalue engineering. And valuing out the wrong thing.
Sure.
So we need to fix the bottom, we need to fix the edges. You'll note on the bottom in the plan, it says wetland edge in 2 places. We think we would like to lap some of that water into some created wetlands to help us just with water quality, also places some habitat for birds and insects. Then again, you can see the bridge. The upper right is a picture of an idea of what this bridge might look like. That happens to be a relatively new bridge in Atlanta. That's the picture is taken of. But the idea in showing it to you is the bridge can be a beautiful feature. Then I'm going ahead to the next slide that says the Great Lawn. And you'll see in a moment our earlier cost estimates suggested reconstructing that whole lawn with under drains and improving the soils, et cetera. And it says gateway feature restrooms right in the bottom of that little plan. I'm going to go and show you a little more detail. So the next slide is a rendering of a building that says Finley Park, and then it says park signage on the right. That is one of those buildings are public restrooms, the other is storage for maintenance equipment. You might recall that before the trail was built recently, the tunnel under Gadsden Street was where you stored the park equipment, so now it has to go somewhere. This building also potentially could be value engineered because it is fairly large, but it provides important functions and a nice entry into the park.
So Mark, is this the one that in the big picture was facing Taylor Street?
Yes, correct. This is facing Taylor. So this picture is if I just crossed Taylor Street and now I'm entering the park. So the next slide is labeled Gadsden Lawn. Since we made this slide, you have built the trail through the space, which is terrific. It's wonderful to have that connection. And you recall 2 years ago we were talking about the busted plug, and so that's why you still see it here. We frankly think that it would be wonderful to get the streetscapes completed around the edge of the park here on Taylor and Gadsden. There's no sidewalk on Gadsden Street today. And yet most of the improvements we think are probably lower priority than up at the waterfall because there aren't real problems here compared to the waterfall area. Moving to the next slide that's labeled Capital Cost Range 2015. This is a slide that we showed you 18 months ago. You'll see the 3 colors and the 3 estimated costs. You'll note that in the way these costs were put together, one of the bridges across the pond and the band pavilion were not included. Now, what we are suggesting to you, I'm going to go one more slide, and you'll see the same thing with the red boundary, is after all of the discussion and hearing the commentary come in, et cetera, we think it would be prudent to consider this red area as your phase 1. Now, you can make choices about what's in that phase 1, but we think we need to fix the pond. We need to fix the retaining wall where the multi-use building is. We need to do the ADA improvements. We need to fix the spiral, the cascades, and we believe that the band pavilion, the extra bridge, and the playground are very important to tie this all together and make this park safe and active. So I'm going to go one more slide, and then I'm done with my presentation. We can come back to this very quickly. What we are suggesting to you is that we do 2 things. This first, number 1, says design validation. What we mean by that, now that almost 2 years has gone by, let's focus in, take your comments, focus in, and see what we can do to make this the best phase 1, even though it might be a large phase 1, the best phase 1 we can make recommendations about the costs of scaling the building or whether the building is deferred, whether the building is made shorter in terms of views, those kinds of things. Let's get tighter costs for that, tighter costs for the spiral, better costs for the playground and the band pavilion, et cetera, so we could come back to you and get number 2, which is some direction, some review from you and some direction as to whether and how we would move forward. So I'm just going to back up just because it's a better slide to talk from. Thank you so much for allowing me a long presentation.
All right. Questions? Mr. Duval.
Mark, I applaud your efforts on the planning. I think it's a great plan. My biggest concern would be, number one, the multipurpose use building. I think we've got to figure out how to value engineer that, to do something with that. And a second problem that is not connected with your problem, but is a citywide problem, is this has become used by the homeless population in Columbia. And I hate to say it, but we have to figure out how to solve that problem before this park is going to be the destination park that we want it to be. So I think that as the council deliberates on how to do and how to pay for Finley Park, we also need to have some serious discussions with our partners about how to handle the homeless situation, and maybe find another area that the homeless can use as a park rather than spend $22 million and make it a really nice homeless park.
Thank you, Mr. Duval. Mr. Davis and Ms. Devine.
I can appreciate the efforts to start from scratch, come up with a concept that would be useful for. I guess we can call it a magnificent piece of the city. I'm just curious, really, about the building, the structure. Conceptually, how does it not take away from the urban concept? Finley is viewed as an urban park, and the gatherings tend to happen in spite of not having, a building of that magnitude. And I'm still understanding the intent of this design. Can you speak to that?
Well, I think that I'll say again that it's my personal feeling the building that's there is larger than it should be. But the idea of having a food concession and bathrooms in the park are good ways to help attract and re-attract people and keep people in the park, which is why we've suggested the first floor of the Jazz Cafe and the first floor of this multi-purpose building have food and bathrooms available. So there's a balance in an urban park of putting things in the park that make it safe and comfortable, and putting things in the park which maybe don't belong in the park. And I would love to be able to come back to you with a range of concepts on that building. So it's not just take it or leave it, or big or small, but to study that further to let you think, because in my mind, you're asking exactly the right question, which is, what are the programs that we put in this park that are going to make this successful? And the idea of an events building is an idea, but you have not given enough debate to say it's the right idea.
Thank you. Ms. Devine?
Thank you. Just a couple, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because my first comment was going to be I'm actually really not sold on the building. That probably, out of the concept that is being presented, that's my least favorite portion. So I would like to see what other options there are to include maybe not an actual building, but some of the other things that you talked about. But I would like to say I think that this is a phenomenal concept. The playground, the pass, I think all of this is definitely needed. I would say, based on Mr. Duval's comment, that I understand that, and I know that we all have that concern, but I also think that two things. Number one, I think that if we address the attractiveness and the safety of the park, you will find that it will be used, and so you will find less homeless hanging out there because it's not going to be the same park. So I think that is something to consider. The other thing is that I just don't feel like, although I know this price tag is a little bit much at this point, and we're going to have to figure out a way to do something. I also don't think that we can wait much longer. I know that Mr. Baker would probably say, you know, he has sat in front of this council many times and talked about the original design and building of the park and how that was not ideal, and because of those things, we've had some issues, and he has forecasted problems that have come to fruition, and I think that we have got to really look at Finley Park as a priority. And one of my, I guess I just want to stress to my colleagues is I think that we end up becoming the bank for a lot of people. And there are a lot of great projects and a lot of great partners that we have out there that have capital projects that they have on their plate. But this is a capital project that is the city's project. And Finley Park is our jewel. And so I think that we've got to figure out a way to do Finley Park, do it right, and make it a priority, because I don't think that we can continue to push this any further. So I would love to see the price come down, but I think that we really need to aggressively look at how we're going to get this done sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Mr. Devine. Mr. McDowell.
An interesting note. The park, I've heard some of my colleagues say that to beautify this park is not to say you're going to get rid of the homeless. You're not. Somewhere I read where it says the homeless persons will always be among us. While I applaud conceptually what you want to do, I think we've got to be really, really sensitive to persons. It doesn't matter how many trees you cut or how beautiful the building perhaps conceptually you design. There are going to be brothers and sisters who are going to find that park as their residence. We cannot eliminate something that is inherently always before us. So I think in our deliberations and as you continue to tweak this, while it's going to be a park for everybody, and while I've gotten concerns from persons who live around the park, of persons either living there, staying there, all kinds of things taking place, I think we've got to be really, really sensitive to those persons whose homes are in some of those bushes. And in so developing that, I think we've got to be sensitive to them, because the beautification of that park does not necessarily mean that they are going to move somewhere else. They're going to reside somewhere else. It simply says that we're going to have to sharpen our tools and in a very strategic way, let this be a place for the city and for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. All right, thank you. A couple different thoughts, and I've shared some of these with you and Randy and Todd previously. I think Finley Park has incredible promise. A lot of the issues that we deal with have very little to do with the park and have to do with access to the park and some of our traffic design issues. I would like, and I've mentioned this to staff the past month or so, and obviously it's not an easy ask, but we do need to begin conversations with DOT, Dana and Missy, who I know are listening to me, but about the possibility of turning Taylor Street into a two-way street. To have the current investment and also the prospective investment there, and still have the major mobility issues there, the highway that is Assembly Street and the highway heading west out of town that Taylor Street is, still inhibits the ability for people to enjoy the park and the way in which we want them to happen. So I'm not sure what the feasibility is of eventually making Taylor Street a two-way street, traffic softened significantly, but that needs to be high on our agenda. I've been encouraged, as I know everyone else here has been, seeing the traffic at Greenview Park because of the investments being made there. The incredible use of Roy Lynch Park, the wonderful partnership with Logan and the Junior League, and we're seeing an investment in our parks as a place where neighborhoods and citizens commune, and we need to continue to make more investments like that. A smart investment in Finley Park that does everything you want to do, drives people to the park, encourages people to have events in the park, whether they're concerts or if they're weddings. These are the types of things that put eyes on the park that begin to dissuade some of the other activities that happen in parks everywhere and anywhere. We will have an opportunity later in this agenda to talk about issues of homelessness, and that is, Reverend McDowell, you're right, our solemn responsibility. We need to deal with that as a community. We'll have that opportunity to do that. But the more eyes you put on the park, the more activity you promote in the park, it begins to address all these other issues. It does not directly address or is not supposed to alleviate the issue of homelessness. Our investments in the social programs to help people transition back to life or get them the services they need, that deals with homelessness. So it's important to understand the relationship, but also realize that one is not necessarily interdependent on the other. We are going to talk about it, obviously chatted privately with some of you and talked to some folks at State about some ideas of using creative financing to get the park done. This is a significant lift, and we do have at least one significant project within proximity to the park. And if we're able to capture that revenue, it's gotten through BOZA and DDRC and the Planning Commission. I think it's coming to us soon, looking at capturing some of that revenue to potentially pay for what is it's not an inexpensive proposition. It's something that we really need to focus on the possibility of. I know I've chatted with staff also about portions of the park along the edge of Taylor Street in Gadsden. I know some of it apparently has deed restrictions and cannot be put to private use. My understanding is that potentially the corner of Gadsden and Taylor does not have that restriction, and it would be a wonderful idea to look at some type of complementary use if it's active senior housing or some type of hotel use that begins to connect in a very real way the type of foot traffic we want to see from the Vista through the park on into Elmwood Park, and also creating another bit of tax increment that allows us to finance the proposed development of the park. I think it's something worth looking at, that type of facility. The rooftop could also be used for some of the other purposes we've seen in the cylindrical multi-use building. But the importance of having eyes on the park, and I don't want to go too far down, but I'm asking Tamika. I'm not sure I've ever focused on the stream that once ran that way. Is it a trickle or is it a stream? And have we ever historically looked at daylighting that stream, or I tried to look at the Sanborn map from 1898 and figure out how many lives and businesses we might disrupt by daylighting that stream. But is it significant or inconsequential? Does anyone know? But to have a tributary off of the Broad and Saluda and the Congaree into downtown is not a inconsequential deal. It's a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal. You look at what's happened in downtown Greenville, and mind you, if this is a 2-inch stream, it's not that big a deal. We've daylighted, I think, some of the streams on Bull Street. It could be something really meaningful. And I'll throw one more thing out there, and Todd or someone's probably going to strangle me, but I asked him about it the other day. But the potential of looking at that pond, and we're going to have to do something major there anyway, but the attractiveness of water, if it's not a daylit stream that we can enjoy in a visual way, but the potential of having some type of a downtown park that might encourage the type of water activity we've seen in Greenview. I'm just going to say it, guys, with downtown beach is what I asked as she chuckles over here, as I asked staff about the possibility of actually having a water feature there. that could attract people to the park. Is that something that makes sense? And obviously, looked at similar concepts as far east as Australia and as far as south as South America. These man-made beaches have some attractiveness. And again, if you're talking about eyes in the park, if you're talking about potential commercial activity and traffic there with a residence or a hotel, I mean, and again, that's not an inexpensive proposition either. Just kind of wanted to throw some of those other ideas into the mix. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything. Anything else I mentioned that hasn't been mentioned so far? I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I like the idea. I'm excited about it. I obviously, it's been mentioned by Mr. Duval and Tamika and everyone else here, the significant cost of the cylindrical building makes it the easiest target in the entire plan. But we're talking about fundamentally building a new park here. If we're going to do it, we got to do it right. We've spoken at length and ad nauseum about putting Assembly Street on the road diet all the way from Elmwood to Rosewood. We haven't talked about the east-west corridor or Taylor Street, but the ability to promote the true connectivity. A lot of people see Finley Park and forget that Finley Park is actually in the Vista. Now we have a way for pedestrians and runners and cyclists to connect from the Vista to our neighborhoods on the northern side of town. But it's significantly frustrated by the challenge of Taylor Street. So anyway, that was a way of saying I think it's worth staff having that conversation with DOT about Taylor Street. But some of these other issues, I'd love to at least get an idea as to if they're cost prohibitive or what have you. The finance issue, obviously, and potentially looking at that corner of Gadsden and Taylor is a question for us as a council and as an administration. But I'm excited about it, and I think a lot of these issues will take care of themselves. And I think I've done a full data dump, so I'm done.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Thanks, guys. And by the way, good job, guys. Good job. All right.
Can I just say before we move on, for Mr. Davis, speaking of concessions, and you've probably heard this concern as well, have we ever looked at adding a small concession at Greenview? Okay, if maybe we could look at a concession at Greenview. I've heard that from a few folks now that they go to the aquatic center fairly often. If there was an opportunity, either, I know we don't want people eating right by the water, but maybe inside the building or something, just to take a look at.
Councilwoman Devine, we are actively looking into considerations as it relates to concessions at Greenview. Okay. We didn't get around to it with the recent grand opening that we had prior to its reopening, but we will make sure that we look into it and get back with you regarding that possibility.
Okay, thank you.
How are we out kicking our coverage down there? The activity we're seeing, has it exceeded expectations?
Yes, the revenue's been good coming in for Greenview, Greenview Park, with the swimming this year.
Awesome.
Just a suggestion, because it invariably always comes up, the question of concessions, because every park where you have the neighborhood that's most contiguous to it becomes their possession and people come. I think we ought to include some form of concession in every one of those parks, rather than, we have to come back and do it. It's each one that I can think of, there is a need because of the activities that's planned and ongoing. So
yes,
it just makes sense to include it.
Currently, at Hyatt Park and Valencia Park in particular,
for example, right?
The neighborhood association's been, responsible for running the concessions during the during their league play, particularly with baseball.
I'm saying, right, with Hyatt, it's basically the baseball and the neighborhood is taking ownership of that. But I would, try to expand the concession and its intended purpose rather than just around one sport, because other folks do use the park for other activities, and I think we should maybe equip it and help to target those folks as well, so that, they can enjoy the park and not have to leave for healthy snacks. Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Mayor, can I
Yes,
ask
sir.
I just want to clarify a couple things, because I think we have several different things that have been asked for them to come back. So we're going to take a look at changing on Taylor Street, seeing if they can be a two-way. We're going to take
That's not them.
Not
That's
them,
that's
but
staff.
some of that will
Yeah,
be
yeah,
staff
that's-
as well.
Yeah.
But for them, we're also going to take a look at changing the use of the multi-use building that's there in the middle.
Bring us the options.
Yeah, and I think obviously we have a phasing plan here. Is there a way in which we can make the phasing plan that much more palatable and digestible? I think there's probably a healthy amount of unease, at least cost-wise, with the multi-use facility and how it figures into everything else we need to do. I'm not sure what of that $6 million, how much that changes with all the other, if the other 4 points you raised still add up to a seven-figure number, then maybe we need to spend some time, looking at the $6 million and seeing what we can do to make something happen there. But right now, I would say those four elements are essential priorities. Is there a way in which we can get this done without that $6 million spend? Would be helpful for us in making the decision. What do you guys think about the idea of the Gadsden and Taylor Street finding some type of use there that might help add some tax value to capture and help the deal get done, and also put some eyes on the park? I know that you guys thought that was a good idea, but how does council feel about that?
On which part? On the park property? Or?
Gadsden and Taylor.
How much property do you have?
I don't think it's not. How much you have?
How much could you use?
What's how much acreage we're talking about? Probably an acre or less. It's if you. I'm sorry, Mr. Baker. We were asking about the corner of Gadsden and Taylor Street. How much area are we talking about there without being disruptive? Any idea?
I believe it was a couple of acres.
It was a couple of acres, but I think if you're talking about Howard in the times in which we're living, you can do a whole lot of development on an acre or less. A lot of development. It had to be something that, in size and scale, would be complementary to the people who are living there, the park itself. We can specifically dedicate, what kind of purpose we want to see there. So if it's active senior housing or if it's a hotel, whatever it happens to be, it ought to be something that comports with the vision we want to see on the park. But having eyes on the park makes a big difference to seeing the types of uses happen there you want to see happen. You want it to be something that's complementary with the park as well. But I know it's something that obviously I put in the bloodstream with them earlier, but they wanted to get a sense from council as to how you felt about that as well. Any challenges with seeing what that looks like? Okay. All right. What else was it on the list we raised collectively, y'all?
Taking a look at daylighting the stream.
Yeah,
or
that was. It would just be interesting to see. Have you guys been to Falls Park? Is it Falls Park in Greenville? And I don't know if that's I have to talk to an engineer in here. I'm a lawyer. But if it's a trickle, it's probably not worth looking at. And honestly, if it disrupts, I can't get a sense as to exactly what it does here on the map to other existing enterprises.
Today, when we dump the pond, it runs through Memorial Park and then down to the river. So it is still an active stream.
Okay. So it just goes up under DEW, under Dew, and into Finley.
Taylor Street and over to Memorial Park. Yes, Memorial Park. And then from there, it kind of trickles down to the river.
Seems to me, I think your question is if we reconfigure or change maybe change the volume, what long-term impact that could have on your water.
Mr. Mayor, if I might.
And some of you may have looked at this before. Please speak freely if it's a bad idea. That's all right. But I think we've seen the promise of what happens when you decide you do want to daylight these types of waterways. And
some person had a similar idea in San Antonio.
Can't hear you, Allison.
But the question for us is with the beach idea and the issue of daylighting may not be so expensive, but we do have to, we will engage them contractually, to go back and look at some things.
sure, it costs money to look at designing, even look at the prospect of it. Okay. What do y'all think? I mean, we can move forward with what we have.
Let somebody smart look at it, but I wouldn't spend a whole lot of money, because I can't believe it'd be enough flow to be a worthwhile project. I might be surprised, but I would be shocked if there's enough flow in that culvert to. Mayor Knox would not like it if we came up with a bigger waterfall than Greenville.
He'll get over it.
I will say that we did, during our master planning efforts, we did discuss about the daylighting, and it was determined, well, in our initial sketches, not anything that we presented, that it, just like you're saying, the flow.
It's not strong enough. I'm looking at the map of Memorial Park, so I see the stream. I just didn't think about it going to Memorial Park right here. It's narrow. It's thin. I assume it goes right up under DEW and into Finley.
And we could certainly do a little bit more due diligence in it with our with Cox and Dinkins, just to give some additional feedback to council and to our team.
Does a little more due diligence mean not costly?
Just to investigate a little bit more into the length, the depth, what the possible water flow might be that's still existing, to give you some idea of if daylighting is a viable option.
Okay. Yeah, something that's not costly, but just an idea. It doesn't look like a one, and I didn't mean to digress. Just looking at this 1898 map was interesting.
It is.
Okay. And what about a interactive water feature? You guys not feeling that, or are you feeling it? I'd love to see some of you in your skivvies. That's a joke.
My advice would be, let's chew what we got first, and then
All right.
see what we.
Keep on moving. Okay. Todd told me it wouldn't be
Stay
cheap.
focused, Mayor, stay
Tell me
focused.
it wouldn't be cheap. We're going to do it. We did it 2 decades ago. We're going to do it right this time. We're going to make it. We're going to make it something special. So let's put that on the back burner for right now. Let's move forward with what we got, and let's see if we can really value engineer this in a way in which it'll stand the test of time. And obviously we'll have to talk about financing at some point, but we got to get that number down, guys. So all right.
Can I say something that's unrelated, but since you're doing a to-do list, I'll forget. It just reminded me seeing Mr. Baker talking. I know we have growing pains and we're trying to maneuver all this. That mic is not tall enough for Mr. Baker and folks like him. And he shouldn't have to bend down to talk to us, so we need to, David, figure that piece out.
Is that called the Baker Rule? Or what?
And an elevator.
And with the screen back too, but that's a whole other story. All right, so is that specific enough?
Yes.
All right, thank y'all. Let's get moving fast. I know you guys have been waiting a long time. I'm excited to see something meaningful happen there. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Ready. Next item on the agenda, on the public agenda, item number 2 is the healthcare strategies update. On your iPads, it actually listed as item number 3. So, healthcare strategies update, Mr. Michael Jones, senior consultant with Willis Towers and Watson.
Hey, Mark.
Good afternoon,
How are you?
Mayor, Council.
We're going to skip over economic development.
That's going to be the next item on the public agenda that's listed as number 3. So we'll have that.
We had the exciting chat about Finley Park, and now we're going to talk about healthcare, so you can take a nap.
That's fun too.
So we're here to follow up on the meeting that we had in June and the request from council at that point to look at some alternative plan designs that reflected the decision to maintain the DDB, but try to do something to mitigate those cost increases that were going to be passed on to both active employees and pre-65 retirees as a result of that. So that's what you have today. If you can turn to slide 3, I can walk you through the key differences on the plan designs. And now, does this link with what you have? Okay, so you'll see what I've got. Okay. So on slide 3, the current plan designs are shown on the left. The alternative designs are shown on the right. Roughly a 2% difference in cost for the plans on the right-hand side. And that's driven by increases in the deductibles for the base plan, the core plan, and the buyout plan. And those deductible increases range from $750 higher for the base plan to $500 higher for the core plan and $250 higher for the buyout plan. So pretty minimal changes given the market and where most employers are today. So that would not take you out of alignment with your peers as well. So on slide 4 is just a summary of the financials. And so the 2 middle columns show you the current plan design and the contribution levels required to maintain the DDB in total dollars, and then the alternative plan design. So you see the savings as a result of that change flow through and reduce both city cost as well as active employee and retiree cost. I think it'll be more productive to look at the actual contribution rates themselves on slide 5. So on slide 5, the center column here is also where we ended up in the June meeting, looking at the current plan design and the contributions needed to maintain the DDB for pre-65 retirees. The column next to that, to the right, reflects the alternate contributions, the contributions for this alternate plan design. So a little bit lower for single coverage and retiree and spouse coverage. And then we see significantly lower contributions for retiree and child coverage and family coverage. This is because they're getting the full value of that alternate plan design. Those are the tiers that are already over the DDB today. So they're seeing some relief as a result of those plan design changes there. In terms of the actual individual rates, that decreases contributions from about a 20% increase or a 21% increase to a 9% increase for single retirees, about a 16 to 17% increase for retiree and spouse under the alternative design, and then those retiree and child and retiree and family increases are significantly lower than they were originally. Any questions thus far? I'll pause on the next slide and ask for your thoughts there, because this slide shows you both active contribution rates on the left-hand side or in the columns on the left and the columns on the right show you pre-65 retiree contributions. So it shows you actually the full cost rate for the plans, the contributions, and then the net city cost. But the key discussion is probably around the contribution rates. So these changes do mitigate that increase a bit and help pass along that savings.
Okay.
So.
Keep moving.
Other than that, that's the follow-up from the last meeting. We also had questions from Mr. Duvall that we wanted to make sure we addressed in the last meeting as well, and that had to do with something on the post-65 side. We talked briefly about opportunities to reduce the cost of post-65 retiree coverage without necessarily changing the value of the plan design that they have today. And there's been a transition in the market driven by employers being faced with significant cost pressure, and you're right, it's even low for me. Employers being faced with significant cost pressure, declining value with retiree plans because retirees are having to pay significantly higher contributions. The deductibles and copays are increasing significantly in group plans and in employer plans. And then the changing financial landscape with the elimination of the tax-free status on the Medicare Part D subsidy. Didn't impact you as much because you're a tax-favored entity, but that's generated a real transition in the marketplace toward exchange-based post-65 coverage, tapping into the individual Medicare market as opposed to the group Medicare market. We certainly have the opportunity to look at other plan designs in the group market, like Medicare Advantage plans or a modification of your current plan design that would help save money. But the real attractive savings opportunity, which gives retirees choice of plan design, in terms of what's best for them, is tapping into that individual market. It's also driving cost efficiency. If you consider your retiree pool of 200 and some odd retirees versus Medicare's population with 45 million retirees, there's a large pool that the individual market is supported by. So it allows those premiums to stay low, and that's why we see Medicare premiums for individual plans a lot lower than we typically see a group plan. And I've got some examples I'll show you there. Just tapping into that market with the insurgence of new pre-65 retirees each year tends to make it less expensive. So on the next slide, I've got some examples that I pulled for individual Medigap and Medicare Advantage products available in the city of Columbia. I picked the zip code for downtown, but looking at your current plan, the per retiree per month cost is $472. That's for medical and drug coverage. And today you're subsidizing post-65 retirees $300 per month, and spouses are receiving $225 a month. So retirees contribute $172, spouses contribute $247. If we went and looked at the individual market and a Medigap Plan F, which is the richest Medigap plan available, and a Medicare Part D plan, and I picked the most expensive Medicare Part D plan I could find in the Columbia area, the total premium for medical and drug coverage that's as good, if not slightly better than your plan, would be $237. So 50% lower than the premium that's being paid for the coverage today. The opportunity for the city is to look at reducing that defined dollar benefit from $300 per retiree or $225 per spouse down. You could drop it by 2/3, and the retirees and spouses would still pay less money under an individual Medigap or individual Medicare product than they would in the city's group plan today. The other opportunity is that retirees could even have a choice of moving into a Medicare Advantage plan, which would cost them even less, and they may even be able to come out of pocket nothing to get that plan by the time they factor in the credit that the city would provide. So it's an opportunity for the city to save money. It's an opportunity for Medicare eligible retirees to save money.
Awesome.
So that's follow up from the meeting. We could actually talk to staff about doing a study to further review that and decide what next steps might be there.
Okay.
In terms of the pre-65 retiree rates, any questions there? Okay.
No, I have another question, but I'll wait.
I'm done.
Okay. So UAL, what does all this do to our?
So the adopting the alternate plan design and maintaining the DDB doesn't change your unfunded accrued liability because you're maintaining the DDB, so you're good.
100 and what?
Because we were maintaining the DDB before.
How much is the UAL? Was it one?
I would be guessing
130, 140.
About.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. But it doesn't change. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that doesn't change.
All right.
Now, if you made the change on the Medicare eligible side, the post-65s, and you reduced your DDB, then it would go down
significantly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Down.
Yeah, in the right way. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Duval.
Mayor, I think we're moving in the right direction on the post-65s. Also, the plans that they're looking at would substantially reduce the cost to the retired employees. My concern is I think we need to look at a little bit broader plan, maybe a group plan rather than an individual exchange plan. I think our employees would be more comfortable with the group and might be able to get better coverage at maybe the same or less cost. So I've asked the staff to do that in the next few weeks so that we can maybe implement this before next year. I think that the county uses a group plan that's Medicare Advantage and have been very satisfied with it and saving several millions of dollars. And I would like for the staff to interview the county and their supplier so that they could see if we could tap into that same type of savings.
You guys, okay? You have or you will? Or I see heads nodding. I wasn't sure what that meant.
We will.
Okay.
We
All
will
right.
be.
Okay.
They would
All
be
right. Fantastic.
delighted to.
Okay. Fantastic.
Thank you.
This is the most painless day you ever had before us.
It is. Well, except for my run this morning. It was hot.
Okay. Welcome to famously hot Columbia. Thank you. All right.
Thank you very much.
Let's keep it moving.
Have a great day.
Mayor, on that item tonight, we will need a motion to adopt.
Alternative plan.
Actually,
It's on tonight's agenda.
let me let Pam explain. So we will need a motion to adopt what he just discussed out of these options.
Right, out of the two options. that he's
It's
given us.
on the agenda as well, right?
It'll be at the end of the agenda for the items that we've discussed in work session.
Super. All right.
Tonight.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Early evening.
Very early, we hope. Item number 3 on the agenda is a presentation from our economic development partners.
Item 2.
And Mr. Ryan Coleman, our Director of the Economic Development.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of City Council. Pleasure to be in front of y'all today. As you know, the Office of Economic Development works towards the creation of job growth and capital investment here in the city of Columbia, and we have a number of partners that we work with who are invaluable to our efforts, but also have missions that fall a little bit outside the scopes of what our office does, such as management of the Business Improvement District and regional marketing and project management efforts. So today I'm here to introduce 2 of our partners for our annual updates. First up will be Mr. Matt Kennel, President and CEO of the City Senator Partnership, followed by Mr. Mike Briggs, President and CEO with the Central SC Alliance. With that, I'll turn it over to Matt. Yes, sir.
Hey, Matt.
Hello. Thank you very much, Ryan, and Mayor, council members, city manager, and staff. Just really happy to be here in front of you today. Today we're celebrating 15 years of partnering with the City of Columbia. It's hard to believe it's been that long. Thank you very much for working with us over the years. The Main Street District and the City Center bid is now something for us all to be very proud of after some tough years, a lot of work, but I think it's paid off. Our board chairman, Trip Whitener, is here today, as well as our vice chairman, Lee Mashburn, and a number of our board members and staff. Could you all just stand up? Thank you. And thank you for all of your leadership. Martha Fowler was one of our founders just a few years ago. As of today, I'm pleased to report that we're approaching $1 billion in taxable investment by the private sector in the Main Street District, with about $20 million of city capital and operational investment in the area. That's streetscaping, parking facilities. This has been a huge return. Huge is used a little too often these days, but to taxpayers, to Columbia, to Richland County, and to School District 1. CCP itself has participated through the bid and through private contributions of raising over $10 million, $10.3 million through the Business Improvement District alone, and has invested all of that in the heart of the city for the benefit of all citizens. By the end of next calendar year, just about 17 months from now, we're looking at up to $100 million in new private taxable investment in the area, including up to 1,000 new residents and 10 new restaurants and retailers. Our only barrier we really see to additional success right now is to continue with the streetscape. I know I've said this to council a number of times, from Blanding Street north to Elmwood Avenue, which is not only for Main Street, but is a key connection to the North Main Business District, where we're seeing great success today, and also the neighborhoods in the Bull Street District. And it's been since 2008 that any of the streetscape work was completed. Our challenge now is to keep this momentum going with the streetscape on the northern end of Main, as well as maintaining really the gold standard of our Clean and Safe Ambassador program. In fact, Patrice Gomillion, who's been with us for more than 10 years, was our Ambassador of the Year, and we're really happy to have you here with us, Patrice. You do a great job. We are hoping we can maintain our current programs and revenue this year. We think we can, even with the cutbacks in hospitality tax. We're just looking forward to getting our bid assessments later on this calendar year. In the current year, our top priorities that we're asking council to help us with, and we're actually working with staff on virtually all of these right now, is to continue to make progress in the connections west of Assembly Street into the Vista area, to North Main and Bull Street, and to improve the connections to the University of South Carolina. Things like the new ZAP scooters are certainly helpful to that. We want to make demonstrable progress on the streetscape from Blanding Street to Elmwood. We would ask that the city do all it can do to at least start on the Blanding Main Street intersection, due to pending projects of 3 of the 4 corners of that intersection. I've actually talked to an assistant city manager, and we are talking about that, and we hope to meet on that very soon, and hope we can get some things moving along on that. We also are working on improving parking and signage. I met with David Noach just a few days ago, focusing on the Main Street entry points and also on the new branding for the Main Street District. The parking facilities will play a key role in that, that we're going to launch in October, and we're going to be hearing more on that very soon. We're also working on more safety improvements for pedestrians, bicycles, and vehicles in the area. We're working with BPAC and the city on this, following the recommendations of the new plan. And something you can see today is to improve upon the decorative lighting and the trees along Main Street. Contractors are out there working on that as we speak. It's been a great partnership with the city public works staff on that. CCP was actually able to buy the lights. The city's helping take down the old lights, and will maintain those for us. So we're really excited about that, and I think it really will brighten up Main Street, and like to thank the city for that. To close, and I'm available to answer any questions, I just want to thank personally the city staff and city council for working with us over the last decade and a half. A lot of progress has been made. A lot more is to come. Things like Finley Park, having the ice rink back, Those are all very excited. First Thursday on Main is booming again after some rough times. The Soda City Market is soon to expand to 3 blocks thanks to City Council. So a lot of good things happening, and we wanted just to thank you for that while I had the chance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Matt? Thank you for your leadership, stewardship. The bid is, I believe, still one of the best things the city's ever done, and you guys have really turned it into something special, so thank you. Ms. Devine?
Just 2 things. And Matt mentioned, and it's in his briefing as well, about the top priorities, and of course, one remains the pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicle friendliness. And we really, I know this council has been dedicated to looking at that and making improvements where possible, but I do think that we need to continue to keep that on the forefront, especially as we talk about not just the connectivity issues, but when we talk about the safety issues. We have people who are not on the streets because sometimes it's not safe. So I just wanted to add that. And then secondly, we talked, or Matt talked about just the connectivity, and we've talked before about the Main and Elmwood, and that intersection I think continues to be a concern. And as we think about going from Blanding to Elmwood to keep that connectivity, once we do that and then we pick up the streetscape on the other side of North Main, people are still not going to cross if it's not safe. So I just add that as something that needs to remain on our radar.
Thank you.
Mr. Duval?
Matt, y'all do a terrific job at City Center Partnership, and I applaud what you've gotten, you have accomplished. I think we have reached the tipping point that the mayor talks about occasionally on Main Street. We've got a lot of good businesses coming in, and I think that vitality shows in the activity we have on the street. I've been sitting here watching your yellow shirt in the back and wondering why he had that soccer ball with him. I thought he was going to do a demonstration, then I realized it's a helmet instead of a soccer ball.
Teresa's always on the job, always. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Mike Briggs with the Central SC Alliance.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and distinguished members of council. It's an honor for us to be here today to give you a report on our activities for the past year. On a side, if you will, I've been in Columbia for 44 years. I congratulate all of you and all of the staff, Matt and his group. This city has changed. I mean, it is fundamentally changed, and it's palpable. The excitement is incredible, and I look forward to my kids continuing to come to Soda City and do the kind of things that we have all dreamt of doing here that are now happening. So thank you all for that. I have with me today Tracy McMillan, who is our Vice President of Operations. Tracy, you stand up, it's okay. And Melissa Mims, who is our Director of Public and Investor Relations. And Melissa has a, sorry?
We've got it.
We got them.
Oh, you got them, okay. In that folder, Melissa has put together some of our marketing literature, collateral literature, also a report that we've crafted based upon the relationship with the city over the past year. The Central SC Alliance and the City of Columbia have been partners for some 35 years. This thing started back in the 1980s. We also, as you know, represent 9 counties in the center part of the state. Today it's about 1 million people. It's a workforce of about 500,000 people. And we market the central region of this state all over the world, constantly. Since 1994, when we were incorporated as a 501c3, not-for-profit corporation, we have worked with companies, all of us here in the middle part of the state, the Department of Commerce, the city, the counties, the Alliance, have worked with companies that have committed to invest $11.4 billion and create some 65,000 jobs. And you can see these businesses all over the region. For 15-16, we had our 4th highest record-setting year as a region, $714 million and 1,500 plus jobs. Today, we are marketing 22 properties in the city on our website, which, by the way, has just been redesigned, and the city has a new landing page and lots of new information. It's kind of a repository of economic and demographic information on the city. If you'd like to go there and take a look at it, it is www.centralsc.org. We have today 8 active projects considering the City of Columbia. And by active, we mean they are there, they are alive, they are in the process of making a determination as to whether they're going to choose to come here or choose to go somewhere else. 4 of them are office projects, 3 are manufacturing projects, and 1 is a distribution project. We have in the past year worked on the city's behalf in responding to 13 requests for information. The RFIs are a good indicator of the level of interest. Folks are asking information about the City of Columbia and about the Central South Carolina region. We've submitted the city on 19 projects, different sites in the city over the past year. In 2016, we had in May an announcement of some 400 full-time jobs in the Pine View Industrial Park in Chinajushi. We also had earlier, at the end of 2015, an announcement of a confidential project downtown which is going to create 50-plus jobs, white-collar jobs. The Chinajushi project at Build Out will create about $1.4 million in sewer demand in the city's system. And over the years, all of the projects that we work together on collectively generate millions of dollars of demand on the water and sewer system in Columbia and revenue, therefore. So we have several initiatives going on with the city, and we'll continue those initiatives into this year and into the next years to come. We are working and have over the past year or so on a tactical plan. The tactical plan is a very simple look at what are the 3 or 4 most important things we can do to impact economic development in the city positively. And we've got a group of folks put together, stakeholders, who are meeting and who are determining what those things are. It has to do with things like creating product, places for companies to come and locate, industrial product, also commercial product, and so on. And there's several other items that we're looking at. We have undertaken an initiative for European recruitment. We have been in Europe probably 8 times in the last 3 years. We will continue to go to Europe. Europe is coming this way. They want to get to this marketplace. They like the cost of doing business in America as opposed to Europe. They want to penetrate this market and they want to be involved in it. So last spring, we were in 5 countries in 5 days all over Europe. In October, we'll be back, and we'll be in Sweden, Finland, Italy, Spain, and Germany in about 8 days. So it's kind of a grueling schedule, but nevertheless, it's very cost-effective to do it in that manner. So we will continue to market to Europe. We'll also continue to market to the rest of the world, to Asia, as well as to North America. As I mentioned, we have redesigned our website. The city has a new executive summary. It has all of your properties listed with all the details. That's out there 24 hours and 7 days. Marketing, the things that we have to offer here. It provides labor analytics for folks who want to come and make some decisions on where they may want to look to locate a business. There was a day many years ago when I first started this, and this is my 20th year, that we used to get a fax, if we can remember the fax machines, and someone would ask a question about a project, and they would ask us to send them some information, and we'd print it out, package it all up, and we'd FedEx it wherever they were. They might come see us, they might not come see us, but the fact of the matter is that that's the way the process worked. Today, we don't even know about a project until we're one of the 5 or 6 finalists, and that's when we're contacted, whether it comes directly to us, whether it comes directly to Ryan, whether it comes directly to the State Department of Commerce. We're all partners in this process. These folks also have the ability to do property searches. If they're looking for a certain amount of square footage, with certain amenities, they can check to see if the city has any of those things to offer. So in all, there's a lot of technical work going on from the website standpoint. There is a lot of very strong marketing initiative going on, and we also have a group in New Jersey who has for the last 6 years been calling around North America and the Eurozones on our behalf for about 6 hours a day and talking to C-level executives about us, the region, and setting up conference calls for us to call and meet with those folks. And that's resulted in many visits, both from us to them and from them to us. So we'll continue all this. My message to you is, like the activity level in our city, our region's activity level is equally robust. And we've got, in my mind, an incredibly good 2 or 3 years coming up. We've got an election we need to get through, and that will tend to put some folks, calm them down a little bit. But we're busy, and we've got a lot in the pipeline, and folks are just kind of waiting right this minute. It's a little slower than we would like for it to be, but it will come back. Europe, again, is coming this way. I am absolutely convinced of it, and I've committed to our board that we'll be there at least 2 times a year for the next 3 years. So I feel very, very good about where we're headed. It continues to be a genuine honor, certainly for me. I've been here 40-something years. I've taught at the university as an adjunct. I've worked at Anchor Continental, raised 4 girls here, so I am invested in this community, and I want all of us to make it the best it can possibly be for the ones that come behind us. So thank you for the opportunity to do that. Thank you for your support. Please know we couldn't do what we do without the City of Columbia. It's just that simple. We thank you for that, and we thank you most of all for the friendship.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mike. Mr. Duval, then Mr. Davis. And
Mike, good presentation. There are some groups that say that Richland County is not competitive in the Midlands. Do you have any concerns about our competitive abilities to bring industry or commerce into the area?
Well, let me answer that by saying that we've spent the last 20 years that I've been here, and Richland County has been one of the ones we've represented, and we've had a lot of success. Property taxes are a part of the whole economic equation that companies look at when they're building a business model, and certainly property taxes get compared, but they're tools that we have to work with those kind of things, and have been successful over the years, quite successful in Richland County.
Ms. Devine? I'm sorry, Mr. Davis. I apologize.
Mike, you mentioned the listing and the properties that the organization markets. Who determines what goes on that list when we consider where vacant properties are, for example, out of an office park?
Mr. Davis, we eventually determine what goes on there, and what we're looking for is commercial properties that are large enough to house not a monstrous development, but certainly a significant development. The brokerage firms tend to handle properties that we don't list sometimes simply because of the size of the properties and those kind of things. However, we have the ability to put whatever we want to on there, and if somebody has an interest in us listing a property, they're certainly welcome to give us a call, and we'll work with them to try to make that happen.
I'm just trying to figure, so where do your leads come from in terms of vacant properties, the industrial parks, office parks?
Fair enough. Many times we're involved in helping the counties put those together, and so we know what's there. If not, the counties certainly make sure we know everything they have to offer. The brokers out there in the commercial real estate firms make sure we know what's available out there, because it's important. It's another listing. It's another place to get the property out there to the world so that it can be seen. So they come from those. We kind of feed the Department of Commerce. The Department of Commerce feeds us on occasion that we may not have one that they have. They may not have one that we have. So all of those kinds of areas. But again, if an individual's got something that we haven't picked up, we're certainly willing to talk to them about trying to get it listed.
Mike, no, thank you for all the work the Alliance does, and it's been important to me over the last several years that obviously we focus on the City of Columbia, but we recognize that we're the center of a region. And it's always been important to me that our support of the Alliance is indeed support of the region. People may live in Columbia, but they'll work in Richland County and Lexington County and some of the other counties within our region, and they'll live there and they'll work downtown. So we're inextricably intertwined. And and certainly, talk to Ryan, I really want to continue focusing on insurance in our cluster, insurance technology, and want to spend some more time over the next year or so really focusing like a laser beam on those opportunities. I think the favorable business environment we have here, these incredibly cool summer days that we have as well, might serve as an attraction for some folks looking to get out of other parts of the country. So I want to spend some more time talking about that. But thanks for the work you guys do, and keep pushing forward. All right. All right.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you. All right.
Item 4 on the agenda is HomeServe USA Water Service Line, Sewer Service Line, and Internal Plumbing Repair Plan Program. Mr. Michael Roscher, Chief Relationship Officer, and Mr. Eric West, Director of Account Management for HomeServe USA.
Good afternoon, Mayor Benjamin and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Thankfully, this mic is the perfect height for me, so we won't have any problems with that. I also realize I'm last on the list today, so I will move with pace in deference to tomorrow being the start of school. Although it reminds me, growing up with 5 brothers and sisters, it was always my mother's happiest day of the year. So I really want to do 3 things today. One was provide a bit of an overview on who HomeServe are. I know we've done that about a year and a half ago or so as part of an RFP, but I realize that there are a couple of new council members, new members on the council, so I wanted to just do a quick review of who HomeServe are and what we do. I also want to speak to the specifics of our experience to date with the Columbia program, and then really answer any questions you may have regarding the program. Just by way of giving you a little bit of background, HomeServe USA is the largest provider of water and sewer line protection programs in the U.S. and Canada. We've been doing it in the U.S. for 13 years. We've been doing it globally as a company for 20 years. We currently in the U.S. protect about 2.8 million homeowners who hold more than 4 million of our policies. Today we have more than 365 municipal and utility relationships and partnerships across the U.S. We also have some association relationships with the National League of Cities and AARP. Probably most importantly, over the last 3 years, as a business, we've done more than 1 million repairs for homeowners in the U.S. We've saved homeowners more than $250 million in repairs, and today we are in one of our customers' homes every 78 seconds of every day, of every week, of every month, and of every year. So consumers get are getting a lot of usage of our programs. So the HomeServe programs and protection plans are fundamentally based on a couple of key facts. One is that homeowners really don't know what's in the ground when it comes to their water line and their sewer line. They really don't know what condition it's in, and really there isn't sort of a regular plan of inspection for those things. We also know that housing stock is certainly getting older. In the U.S., more than 70% of the housing stock is over 25 years old. In Columbia, the census indicates that the average home is 40 years old. So I certainly live in a home that's old, and I know that my infrastructure is aging too. The other thing that's really important, and we routinely survey utility customers, is more than 2/3 of them don't realize that they are responsible for the water line or the sewer line of that infrastructure on their property. And the ones that do realize it's their responsibility typically think the homeowner's policy will cover it if they have a problem, or that the city covers it because they're unaware of anything otherwise. So the reality is most of them don't understand that responsibility until they have that problem. And sometimes they call you and say, hey, I have this problem, and unfortunately the city, or the utility in most cases, has to say, we're sorry, that's not our problem, that's your problem. And that's what HomeServe strives to do, is to provide a solution to that. So what that does is, they find out at the time that they have a problem. That problem is material because they can't take a shower, they can't bathe their children, perhaps they can't make coffee or what have you. And then it can quickly turn into a financial hardship. I was actually reading a Forbes magazine just the other day that indicated a survey by Bankrate.com that said 63% of homeowners in the U.S. don't have $500 saved to cover an emergency repair. So these programs can turn into a real challenge for a homeowner, and it really comes down to homeowners faced with this issue. Their first questions that go through their mind are, who do I call? Will they come out? How much will it cost? I'm kind of in a bind. Am I going to get a good price? And is the guy going to do a quality job? Those are the answers and to the questions that HomeServe strives to fulfill every day. So really, there's cities and towns partner us for two key elements. One is the educational aspect of the program. So HomeServe invests in sending communications out to homeowners, in educating them on their responsibility. And as my mom used to say, don't just focus on problems, focus on solutions. So we also provide them with a solution, which is really an affordable protection plan for your water line or your sewer line that protects them in the event of a leak or break, gives them a place to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We provide and manage a network of local contractors who are license checked, insurance checked, background screened, drug screened, to ensure that we're putting the very best local contractor into that homeowner quickly. And we typically respond very quickly. So when a homeowner has an emergency problem, we are typically on site with the homeowner's responsibility within a couple of hours. Interestingly, oftentimes we want to get there sooner than the homeowner wants us. In fact, they say, look, I have to go to soccer. Now is not a good time, or 2 hours from now is not good, but could you do it on this time or on this specific time or date? So we clearly accommodate them in that case. So we respond quickly, and we end up doing a very quality work, guarantee all the work. We will do everything to code. We'll make sure we pull all the permits, coordinate the inspections, and at the end of a repair, all the customer has to do is sign, indicating that they're happy with the program and they're happy with the job that we did repairing it, and that's it. Their plan covers the rest. They can call us an unlimited number of times. They have unlimited coverage for repairs. And probably most importantly about HomeServe really is we have this saying is that we put the customer at the heart of everything that we do. So we are A+ rated by the BBB. We survey all of our customers after repairs to ensure their satisfaction with that. We really live by what we will call a customer promise, which I didn't realize there was a buildup on these. On the second page, this customer promise of the slide is a document and really a methodology that we approach our business with our customers. It was created by our employees. And it's been implemented across the company. It really just says what we are going to do for our customers all throughout their life cycle and their journey with us. Fundamentally, we all live by the customer promise, and at the end of the day, we just want to make it easy for our customers. So it's easy to join. Customers can take advantage of our programs. If they decide at some point that program is no longer for them, they can cancel at any time and get a refund of their current membership fee. So it's proven to be a great program. More specifically to the Columbia program right now, after a thorough RFP back in 2014, HomeServe was selected as the provider, and we signed an agreement in January 2015, 5-year term. Basically provides a couple things. It provides for HomeServe the right to use the marks for the mailing, so that homeowners and residents realize that you have sort of vetted the program and are willing to let us offer it to your residents. And it also provides for some fees and ongoing commission payments to the Change Up Fund. We launched in March. Since then, we've got approximately 16,000 policies in place, which is very exciting for us. We've made very strong contributions to the Change Up Fund to the tune of about $164,000. As a business, HomeServe has invested nearly $300,000 in the educational materials and the marketing that we've done to help homeowners understand their responsibility. To date, again, this is a program that just launched in March of last year. We've made nearly 900 repairs for homeowners. So we are doing a repair, 1.5 repairs per day for residents in the city of Columbia who are members of our program, and that's very exciting for us. We've effectively saved the Columbia residents just about $500,000 in repair costs that they otherwise would have had to pay for themselves over the last year or so. So we think it's a program that's been received well. Consumers are deriving value out of it. And I would say, and I'd like to thank staff for their collaboration on the program. I think we've been working well together. I I think we, Home Service, try to be very flexible in the program and the approach. We've been asked to sort of hold off on some mailings during some particular times, which we were more than happy to do. We've added additional disclosure copy as has been requested. The one thing I would say that we most recently were asked to do was to sort of remove the City of Columbia reference on the outer envelope. And if there's one thing I could say I think has had a big had a big impact on the program, it's that. Since we removed just putting the name City of Columbia, not the identity, but the name on the outer envelope, we've seen response rate that the rate at which people are accepting and trying the program drop 40 to 50%. So we're seeing fewer people taking advantage of this program. And look, you know, when you get something in the mail, and the average consumer, I don't know, gets 20 or 30 pieces of mail a week, when you get something in the mail, having nothing on it isn't a great way to at least get the envelope opened. And that's really what we're trying to do. Inside the program, materials are very clear that the program is optional, very clear that Home Service is the provider of the program. But the challenge on it that we've seen has been very dramatic in not being able to at least put the name sort of City of Columbia on the outer of the envelope. So it's one thing that I would respectfully request the council to consider allowing us to go back to doing that. It was clearly an important part of the agreement and the negotiations in the RFP when we went through that process. We wanted to be very collaborative and work with the city in terms of trying, not putting it on the outer envelope, but we've seen a very dramatic impact on that. So as I stand before you, I would say that's the one thing we'd really like to use. We'd like to have the council reconsider as allowing us to do that. We know there's a very strong affinity that residents have to the City of Columbia. They have a high degree of trust. They appreciate the relationship here, and that really shows that when you take that one element off, it has had a very material impact on the program. So overall, I think the program has been great. I think we've worked well together. We've seen really good initial, response rates and take-up rates on the program. The data we're getting back from your residents who are engaged in the program is very strong. We're delivering a good quality service, and we just want to continue to be able to do that and have the opportunity to get more people engaged in the program, or certainly at least aware of their responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, questions, Mr. Duval?
Thank you for coming and presenting today. This has been a topic of my concern since I got on council. My phone rings off the hook every time you do a mailing, and my phone calls have been reduced by about 50% since we took the City of Columbia seal off the outside, which I appreciate y'all doing that. I disagree with you that this is a very voluntary program. When you read the material that you sent out, and I save all the letters, it sounds like the City of Columbia is telling you you're getting ready to have a broken water line and you better sign up now because it's going to save you a fortune in the future. You've got 16,000 people that thought the City of Columbia was doing this. And how much revenue is that per month or per year? Can you tell me how much you made in 2016?
At a very high level, I can tell you at 16,000 customers at $5 a month, that's probably I think the math is probably close to $900,000. I can tell you we have paid out between the claims cost, the cost of the educational marketing materials, and the contributions to the Change Up Fund, we have paid close to $900,000 to $1 million. So there is, just to give you sort of a sense of the economics at this stage of the game for us.
What's the national statistic on how often your water line from the meter to your house breaks?
Interesting, I saw something not long ago that said, and these are sort of rough numbers, so bear with me, that the likelihood of having a sewer or water line problem for a customer is typically higher than the likelihood of them having an automobile accident. So Right now, I would say our experience is about 5.5, 5 to 6% right now of folks who have had so far in the program who have had a claim.
We have 135,000 customers on the city of Columbia. You've got 16,000 signed up for your.
Right. So we have 16,000 signed up. I think we've done somewhere about 900 claims so far in the last, over the last year or so.
Do you think they understand that they are dealing with a private insurance company rather than the city of Columbia?
I think they do. They call us. We make it very clear on the materials. And once somebody enrolls, we send them their welcome materials, their terms and conditions, their letter, all the information that has home serve, home serve, home serve.
Right.
If somebody goes online to the website we've set up for this program, at the very top of that web page says home serve. Home serve is the first identity that is on the website. In the language of the letter, it does state the home serve as the provider, and but what we do realize is that a customer needs to feels much better when they feel like somebody has looked at the program and said this is a program and went through a process to make HomeServe as the selection to provide this program. They feel better knowing that somebody did that and kind of want to know who did that. So I think when it comes to knowing who's going to come out when something is broken and needs to be repaired, I do think they know that HomeServe is going to do that.
They think it's the city of Columbia is going to come out and fix that thing for you. How do you determine the local firms that you hire to go out and repair these lines?
So we have a contractor management team. We also have area network managers across the United States. So we have a gentleman named Dennis Tillett, who is the area network manager for the Southeast. He will come in and we will do outreach to local contractors. We'll come in, interview them. We will see what kind of shop they run. We look at what their trucks are. We look at how organized they are. We make sure they pass all of our screening criteria. And then once all that has happened, and we know that they're going to treat customers the way we require them to be treated, right down to we go in and train them and make sure they understand how to handle a HomeServe customer. We put them on the program. We also then do monthly reviews. We provide what we call a contractor report card that we give to our contractors on a monthly basis, which allows us to share with them the jobs they did, how the customers surveyed, how they graded that contractor on that work. And the contractors who do the best work, obviously will tend to get more of the work. So it's highly managed, and it's a critical component of the service delivery of our program.
Ms. Devine? I'm sorry, Ms. Devine and Reverend McDowell.
Thank you, Eric, for coming and the presentation. And I'll say that I remain a big supporter of this program. I have heard from lots of people who don't know that it's their responsibility, and they call us and want to know why the city's not fixing that line. And the folks who have less than that $500 saved up is typically who I hear from. And I think that there are a lot of folks who don't understand. And I think having this ability to have a program that is an optional program, we cannot always, we have so many issues that come in front of us that people are confused one way or another. I mean, we went through the residential landlord registration and people thought one thing and still think one thing, even though we had public hearings ad nauseum. I mean, there are always going to be people who are confused, but I think we have made it very clear it's an optional program. You've made it very clear it's an optional program, and the reality is we do have citizens who need this program. So, I thank you for coming because I know that there has been some concern and we've had some new council members. I would like us to reconsider allowing that name because, quite frankly, I think that having the city, knowing that the city went through a vetted process is helpful. I do real estate closings, and realtors recommend a home warranty company to their buyers, and typically their buyers will buy it because their realtor recommended it, because they know that probably will help. And 9 times out of 10, those people who have those home warranty programs, when the washing machine goes out, when the dishwasher goes out, they are happy that they have it. And so, as with any kind of insurance, that's what insurance is. You may or may not need it. And I know Mr. Duvall asked a question regarding what's the likelihood of the line going out, whatever. I'm going to tell you, the people who the line goes out and don't have the money to pay for it are the ones that we're going to hear from, and they're going to be happy that there is this option. So I just think that I know there's been some confusion. I think that we can continue to clarify, put the information out, work together to make sure that residents understand that is clearly optional. But I do think that this is a necessary program, and I think that absent or besides the fact that we still have 4 more years of a contract with you guys, I definitely think that this council needs to really look at how to make this partnership a win-win for everybody instead of trying to figure out a way out of it, because we have had some people complain. And I'm not minimizing the complaints. I know WS did a story on it, because they got complaints. I know council members have gotten complaints. I've gotten calls as well, but I also know that and Mr. Davis can probably say that as well, because the majority of the complaints in the past that I've gotten have been, from District 1 and 2, people who just don't understand and didn't have the money to pay for it. And I think that having this option is important for us to be able to provide that service for our citizens.
And I would like to add that to the extent that you do get complaints, either from a member or sort of non-members, we'd certainly be happy to field some of those for you if there's a particular issue that somebody has, or questions that somebody particularly has. We'd be happy to do that as well, and always like to get that information.
And you didn't give it in your presentation, and it's been so long I can't remember, but I do remember you sharing with me, I think, a story or a compliment that you got from somebody. Do you recall what that was? It was one thing I said, oh, I want him to say that, and I can't remember what it was, but anyway, absent that, and then for Mr. Palin, one of the things, and I see Ms. Said in here now, I just want to make sure that we have coordinated everything, because I remember her mentioning, Ms. Said and I talked about it in the transition, making sure that the change-up program and the money and everybody knows what's going on there. So I just want to make sure on our end that we have looped that circle.
We will. I've actually, Missy Gentry and I spoke about it just yesterday, and she's following up with staff right now on the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McDowell. Are you on, Ed?
Am I on?
Oh, yeah. Now I can hear.
Confusion has been the prevailing issue. And of course, where there's chaos, you don't develop anything. So confusion has been at the apex of what has gone on. Oh, just one question. There has been a lot of folk who has expressed concerns to me about customer service. And has that been tweaked any? Because from what I gather, is that there were a number of folk, when contacting consumer services, either an answer that was perhaps applicable for that particular need was not available. Has it been tweaked, or was any tweaking done?
I don't know directly sort of what any particular references that you're talking to. I can tell you we go through great lengths to train and retrain our customer service representatives and our claims folks. We do sort of set up dedicated phone numbers and what have you, so when a customer calls in, they know what program they're calling on. And we have what we call a CAT team, which is our customer advocacy team, which is a dedicated group of folks whose sole job it is to make things right for a customer if they haven't had a good experience. And then our CEO and my boss, Tom Rusin, basically says CAT's job is to tell him what they're going to do. They have complete autonomy to handle those kinds of things. If there are a couple of specific instances, I'd love to get those because that's what we love to drill down on anything like that. Like anybody else, we are not perfect, but ultimately our goal, and we say here, is if a customer is not happy, we're going to listen to them, we're going to understand what their issue is, and we're going to make it right. So I'd appreciate any insight you might be able to share through staff on that.
If a person opts in, is it hard for them to opt out?
You finished?
What's the process?
Yeah, the process is very simple. Somebody can pick up the phone, they can call us, and they can say, I'd like to cancel the program, and they will be canceled. If they cancel mid-month and they're a monthly payer, they'll receive whatever pro-rata refund is on their membership fee. If they sort of paid annually in their mid-year, they'll still get a prorated refund of any unused portion of the fee that they paid. And if at some time somebody sort of realizes that, oh gosh, I have this other thing, or for some reason I have some other kind of coverage, if they realize that, we'll refund them all their money. Simple as that. So we want to make it very easy to enroll. They can do that through the web, they can do that through the phone, they can do that through the mail. And then if they want to cancel, they could send us a note back saying, I want to cancel. They can call us up, they can go online. So we want to make it very easy for people to be in the program, and we want to make it equally as easy for them to either stay or not. Very good question, though. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? I'm sorry, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I didn't get to write you. Can you tell us the 100 or 16,000, but how many claims have you paid out?
We've done 900 claims so far. And we've had a claims cost we've paid about $480,000, just under $500,000 in claims so far.
I share Ms. Devine's enthusiasm for the program. I think that there's some value here to our citizens, but I fully empathize with the concerns raised by Mr. Duval, making sure that our citizens know and making sure it's clear that this is not a program of the City of Columbia, but we need to also make it clear, if it is the continued consensus of council, that this is a program that does have our imprimatur on it, that is something that we support. And that's what I know you need to make sure you're able to communicate effectively to people so that they will potentially, you'll see the takedown rate go up back to where it once was. So we have to find a way to balance that clear concern that people know that this is not the City of Columbia saying you need to do this, and it's clear, but at the very same time making clear that it does still bear our endorsement, and we encourage this as a prudent way of handling your business moving forward. How we strike that balance best, I'm not sure, but I'm not convinced that everyone who's signed up for the program believes it's mandatory that this is something that's required. And I think there are some people who've made a business or a personal decision that this is something they think is the right direction to go in. But I've gotten emails too. I've gotten emails from, and I've gotten the mailing. I've read it, and I will say this: I do know that obviously different folks can see the same missive and read it very differently, and you have to give people credit for that. So I guess I got to figure out how we strike that balance that makes some sense.
If I could, maybe I could propose something we could try, because we have tried a number of things. The most recently was to remove the identity, in its entirety on there. So I guess my question would be, perhaps there's an approach we could try in the next campaign where we sort of reinstitute the City of Columbia on there, but also incorporate HomeServe on there in some way. So what we used to say was for, what did it say? Actually, I have it here, sorry.
It used to look like it came from the City of Columbia.
It said on the outside, for City of Columbia water customers. So, we'd certainly like to get back to that, and really was sort of what we, the premise of what we both agreed to do. Perhaps we could add to this, for City of Columbia water customers from HomeServe or something like that, to create at least and start right off the bat to create a bit of an acknowledgement that, you know, there's more than one entity involved in this, and that it's, you know, sort of City of Columbia, you know, allowing HomeServe to make this offer to their customers. So I propose that perhaps that is something worth trying, and we could see what that might do. We know what taking it off has done to the performance of the program, and how, you know, how much lower, you know, the take rate has been on this for customers to sign up. So perhaps there's a middle ground there that would allow us to try that approach.
I think that's an important move in the right direction, and obviously that would help. And then, of course, on the innards of the document as well, the relationship needs to be transparent too. And I think that needs to be constantly stated throughout the document. I'm not a draftsman.
That's okay.
But I think I do believe that whatever our citizens are reading, it needs to be clear that this is a relationship with a private company, that this is something that your council, or at least the majority of it, feels is something that is potentially of value to you. This is your decision to make. You can choose yay or nay, but it needs to be very transparent throughout. And I think that's a way in which we can, of course, potentially heighten the take time rate, not as a way of increasing revenue, but as a way of making sure our citizens know the service is available to them, but being done again in a transparent way. I'm not sure if that helps, Howard.
Mr. Mayor, we have local companies that are selling these same type policies. SC&G has a similar program that they will provide you this thing.
Same thing, they make revenue on it.
But they don't claim to be sponsored by the City of Columbia. My whole beef is that they're selling their product using the goodwill built up by the City of Columbia.
Because we went through an RFP process and we interviewed companies and we entered into an agreement to endorse this company. And that is the reason we went through that process, because there was SC&G, there was I can't remember the one that y'all now bought.
USP, Utility Service Partners.
There were several companies in the market at the same time doing the same thing. And quite honestly, we started, you talk about phone calls, we got phone calls at that time from people confused and not understanding what it was, why we wouldn't pay for it, et cetera. And so that is why we went through this process of vetting companies and then selecting a company to endorse. So yes, there are other companies who are doing it, and people can sign up through those companies, and that's their choice. But knowing that your council has gone through a vetted process, and for our citizens to be able to get a benefit from this through the contributions to the change-up program, I think are beneficial. But we clearly went through that. But the reality is, and I think Teresa can remind us as well, but you know, in 4 years, there may be a different council who decides something different. But we went through a process, and we actually have a contract with this company. They're being accommodating the things that they've done so far. They didn't have to do, because those things are included in our contract that we would allow them to do. But being a partner, they have agreed to try and work with us to address the concerns that have been raised. But I just think that in good faith, we need to continue to work with them to try and figure out how do we address your concerns and other people's concerns for a win-win for everybody, instead of just saying, you know, other people can do it. Because we went through a process.
Yes, thank you for that. And Mayor Benjamin, I understand your point clearly. So what I would tell you is I'm willing for us to also go back and look at what can we do to ensure that the transparency in the printed word of the document and the letter is as transparent as we all can make it, and make it certainly clear that, or clearer, if I'll say, that HomeServe is the one providing this product. That, you know, make it to your point, that you have reviewed the product and you know, stand behind it, but it is HomeServe that's going to be providing that product.
Sure. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Davis.
I'm just going to weigh in. I'm going to commit to the remainder of the contract. And I understand Howard's position, and I've fielded a lot calls and questions and in meetings. But a contract is a contract, you know, a deal is a deal. But I would strongly recommend that whatever methods we need to use for more clarity on this, that we do it to cut down on the confusion. And you know, Tamika is correct. I've noticed now there's a new company nationwide that's doing this on appliances. So everybody's in the game. And I think the bottom line is going to be, you know, because of the commitment and the partnership with a governmental entity, we need to make sure that the claims or the offerings or the guarantees or the warranties are very clear to the citizens. And then, you know, I think at the end of the contract period, you know, we can take a look at it. But right now, we're in it. But that does not mean that we can't do what needs to be done to minimize or eliminate as best we can the confusion about the partnership with the city.
Thank you. And I would say we feel the same way. I mean, we do. We know we have a contract and agreement, but I'd say we also view this as a partnership. And, you know, we've wanted to work closely with the team here and with staff to ultimately result in a program that we're all happy with and proud of. So to that end, I do think there are, you know, this is very good feedback, which we can take back and incorporate to make sure we're all pulling on the same side of the rope. And I think we will go back and do that from our standpoint. You know, the one component that I'd like to really just try and sort of solve is sort of the ability to get some form of the city brand back on the outer envelope. And if that means that we come back with a couple of treatments that we can provide to staff to look at, that's really sort of the key. It's can we accomplish that?
I'd be okay with that. But the other thing is, I would just say is if this council would be amenable, of course, looking at a draft, but I like maybe the language proposed by the mayor, some semblance of that, because maybe it better explains that, again, it's a partnership. This is an independent company. However, council has gone through this process, which I think is really what you want, is someone to understand that we've looked at you and we are endorsing this company. And so I think that might be, that may alleviate some of the confusion that some people are having, but, you know, we'd have to see the way it looks, but maybe that could address both of those issues.
Just an interjection here. The city manager went to great length to try to describe and explain this venture. You may want to take a look. I don't know if you're doing surveys with folks that are taking advantage of it, and see if you can glean what is it that has caused some folks to not fully understand, and see what else can go out in addition to anything new. Symbols are one thing, but words do matter, as we're hearing a lot of now. So I think that needs to also be a part of the process. Yep, okay.
Was that your reference to Donald Trump? What was that?
I know. I'm hearing it on every channel I'm getting.
Okay.
But you know, it's the explanation. It's how you go about explaining and painting that verbal picture, if not mental picture.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, sir. Mr. McDowell.
Just a comment. The services, of course, are, your company complements persons who live in communities who have initiated a claim, and of course that claim was paid out. That's great. I think the issue, and of course my issue, has been an issue of marketing. We've got that seal, and of course, there was not a lot of work done prior to that.
And I'm not sure this is catching you.
I'm sorry.
Make sure the microphone's catching you.
I'm sorry. There was not a lot of work done as it related to that letters going out with city seal. If something could be done, and I think that's what I'm hearing around the table, it's got to be a collaborative kind of ball game. And what has not taken place, I'm not questioning what the company does for those persons who have a claim and how important it is for persons to have that kind of insurance. I don't want to put ourselves in a quagmire where persons see the seal, something happens on their piece of property, and ideally they're going to look at the city to repair it. Now, the letters have been sent. We understand that. But I think it's more about clearing up the confusion that is already there. And how well can we do that? And can we do that? Can we do it with the seal and an explanation, simply saying this is a private company that is doing that? I think we've got to manage that in that kind of fabric, and because if we don't, confusion is just going to continue to grow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I would tell you that is sort of what we've tried to do in the lift note that we put into every package that goes, which sort of, and if we need to work that better, that creates a clearer line in that note between, what the city of Columbia have done to get to the point where they've said HomeServe is the right choice. We can certainly do that. And again, I will commit to going back and figuring out a way to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll work with staff on sort of the next iteration of this.
Yeah. Yes.
Great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else, Ms. Devine, you have a motion?
Yes, I'd move that we go in executive session for the receipt of legal advice relating to matters covered by attorney-client privilege, Busby Street deed reformation, alcohol and beverage control license protests, discussion of matters related to proposed location expansion or the provision of services encouraging location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by a public body, potential funding sources for economic development projects, and discussion of negotiations incident to proposed contractual arrangements, renovation of 1800 Main Street.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to the previous question. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mr. Duval?
Aye.
Ms. Devine?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin?
Aye. You guys are a rough bunch.